7 pointless things to stop doing when decluttering after 60. You've decluttered so much, yet your home still doesn't feel any lighter. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong. You're just doing too many unnecessary things. Things that repeat over and over, taking your time, draining your energy, and stealing your motivation to try again. In this video, I'll tell you the story of Agnes, age 75, a former ER nurse living alone in the old house her parents left behind. She was an extremely tidy person down to the smallest detail, but it was that very neatness that kept her from realizing what she was holding on to and what she was living with. Each part of this video will take you through 7 common habits that many seniors fall into when trying to declutter after 60. We'll walk through things like organizing stuff. You're not even sure you'll keep searching for the perfect donation place, holding on to just-in-case items, repeatedly tidying the same corner, keeping things because they cost money over categorizing everything, and feeling guilty when looking at something you once bought. If you see yourself in any part of Agnes's story, you are not alone, and you're not wrong for feeling exhausted when the clutter never seems to end. Decluttering isn't that hard. What's hard is recognizing the things that seem right, but are actually what's keeping you stuck. Those are the things that need to go first. Before we begin, I just hope you remember one thing. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to feel a little lighter, one step at a time. And everything will begin to change. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you find this helpful. Your support is what keeps us going and helps us share even more meaningful stories. Thank you for being here. Pointless Task 1. Organizing things you might not even keep. I remember clearly the first day I started helping Agnes declutter. She opened the living room door and said, "This is the spot I've reorganized 3 times in the past 2 years. Each time was a different style, different boxes, different labels, but the stuff was still the same." In the cabinet were handkerchiefs she had folded, perfectly sorted by color and size, tied neatly with ribbon. Next to them were old medical books, unused medicine bottles, a sewing kit, and a stamp collection, all kept in clear plastic bins. It looked tidy, but the first question I asked was, "Do you still use this?" She paused for a moment, then said, "I'm not sure." Agnes had a deeply organized mind. After decades in the hospital system, she was used to putting everything in its right place. But after retiring, she brought that habit home and began organizing even the things she wasn't sure she needed anymore. She spent hours wiping old oil bottles, folding scraps of fabric, and saving cards from people she could no longer remember. But the entire time, she never asked herself one simple question. "Do I still need this?" I told her one small rule. Don't organize what you haven't decided to keep. Don't waste your time folding things you're planning to get rid of. Because when you organize before you sort, you're tricking yourself into thinking you've decluttered. But really, you've only made things look prettier, not lighter. The real question isn't which drawer this handkerchief belongs in, it's, do I still want to see it in my home? From that day, we made one rule. If you touch it, you decide. No putting it aside for later, no temporary storage, no saving it to ask someone else. The decision had to be made right then. Do you use it? Do you like it? Does it still fit your life today? If not, let it go. No more circling. And strangely, once that rule was in place, Agnes started decluttering less but making more progress. Decluttering isn't about making things look nicer. It's about seeing your life more clearly. Pointless task. Searching for the perfect donation spot. I found out Agnes had a notebook with about 200 pages filled with lists of charity locations she had been collecting for the past 3 years. Names of organizations' addresses, contact persons' opening hours, what kinds of items they accept, and detailed notes in every section. Some only took linens. Some only wanted children's books. Some didn't accept electronics. Some needed appointments were booked 3 days in advance. I asked her, "How many of these places have you donated to?" She shook her head, "None yet. I'm still researching." At that moment, I looked around and saw 3 cardboard boxes near the door. One filled with dishes, one with old books, one with winter clothes, all labeled, all ready to go. But that day never came. Agnes wasn't lazy. She had done a lot. She was just moving in the wrong direction. In her mind, every item had to go to the perfect person, the right place, the ideal purpose. That fur coat had to go to someone who needed warmth. The book set had to go to a poor school. The kitchenware had to go to someone who loved cooking. I understood the feeling. We don't want to throw away good things. But I told her this: finding the perfect place for every item isn't the same as loving the item. It's avoiding the guilt of letting go. She wasn't a distribution manager. She just needed to decide that she didn't need these things anymore. That's all. She picked 3 places all close to home. One that accepted anything. One that took books, and one she had visited before. Everything after that became simpler. Instead of reading 30 more pages of research, she carried the box to the car, and when she returned, one corner of her house already felt lighter, not because the items found their ideal new home, but because they had finally left. Pointless task 3: keeping things just in case. Agnes's basement was like a storage room for a life that had never happened. There were 4 pressure cookers, 12 emergency candles, 2 unopened bedding sets, and hundreds of small items packed carefully in plastic containers labeled for emergencies. She told me just in case. In case of a power outage, in case the kids showed up unexpectedly, in case of illness, war, or even no internet. Each item was a scenario in her mind. But in the past 3 years, she hadn't used 80% of them. I asked her, out of all the worries you've had, have these things ever really helped you? She went quiet, then sighed. No. The hardest part of letting go isn't the object. It's the anxiety of not having it if something happens, especially for someone who grew up in hard times. Agnes grew up during a difficult period in America. Everything was scarce and everything had value. But today is different, and so is she. What she needed more than anything was a home where she could move safely and breathe easily. I told her, keeping extras isn't wrong, but you have to be honest with yourself. How many times have you saved something just in case and never used it? How many of those items ended up damaged in storage? How many of those what-ifs never came true? We started with a box of candles. Some had melted and lost their shape. Some were moldy. The rest had been stored so long they lost their scent. She laughed and said I thought keeping them made me feel safe. But they only made things heavier. From that day, we changed the question from "What if I need this?" to "Do I need this now?" And we only kept what was truly useful today. peace doesn't come from extra supplies, it comes from clarity. Pointless task 4: repeatedly tidying the same spot. In the attic of Agnes's home was a wooden cabinet with 3 drawers. Every spring she would climb up there, open each drawer and go through every item. An old letterbox, an accounting notebook, a few photos, a handful of colourful plastic necklaces. I asked her, "Do you plan to keep these?" She said, "I'll decide next time." That next time came in the fall. Then again the following spring. Then fall again. Each time she opened the cabinet, she felt like she was doing something. But in truth, nothing changed. I called it the Groundhog Day effect. When we don't decide, we think we're handling it, but we're just circling the same old items. Worse still, the more we look, the harder it becomes to let go, because the brain gets used to things. What we see often becomes familiar. And then we think we need it simply because it's been there for so long. Agnes and I made a rule. Each item only gets touched once. Keep or let go. No saving for later. No revisiting later. To help her feel more at ease, I suggested creating a decision box. Anything she wasn't sure about went in that box labeled with the date. If 6 months had passed and she hadn't needed or thought of it, it would be donated without reopening. We wrote a note on the box, "Thank you for being with me until now." That was it. And strangely, just making that one decision in the moment helped her feel alive again. No more circles, no more delays, only the present moment. Pointless task 5: keeping things because they were expensive. In the middle of the dining room sat a dark wooden table with 8 leather chairs so heavy it took 2 people to move it. Agnes said I bought it in 1994 for $8,000. Back then I thought I'd host family dinners every holiday. But since her husband passed, the table had only been used to hold male tablecloths and boxes left by the grandchildren. I asked, "When was the last time you ate at this table?" She smiled, probably 10 years ago. I asked, "Why do you still keep it?" She went quiet, then said, "Because it was expensive. Because I paid a lot. I don't want to feel wasteful." That feeling I understood. Many of us don't keep things because we need them, but because we once paid for them. But money spent is gone. What's left is the space, the emotional weight, the daily inconvenience of living with something we no longer use. I told her keeping expensive items you don't use is like paying rent for something that doesn't serve your life anymore. Every time you step around that table to sweep, every time you have to back up because there's no room to move, you're paying more for it. We did the math. If the table cost $8,000 and sat unused for 10 years, that's $800 a year just for taking up space. She looked at me, then let out a sad laugh. "You're right." So she called a friend of her granddaughter, a young couple who had just moved into their first apartment. They took the table, and that very day, she placed a comfy chair near the window. "That spot," she said, "is where I'll sit and have tea every afternoon." The most expensive thing isn't what costs the most. It's what takes up space and gives nothing back. Pointless task 6: over-categorizing everything. Agnes's old study had 3 bookshelves and 5 storage boxes. Inside each box was its organizing system. Hardcover books in one, paperbacks in another. Medical books are separated from wellness books. Psychology books are separate from life skills books. There were also books she hadn't read, books she planned to reread, and books meant for lending. I asked her, "When you need to find something, is it easy?" She answered honestly, "No. Every time is a scavenger hunt." Sometimes she forgot which category she filed it under. Sometimes she searched by cover color, by size, sometimes by how the book made her feel. Over-organizing didn't make her life easier. It just made things look more professional. But a home isn't a library or a storage unit. A home is for living. I suggested we simplify everything into just 3 groups: keep, donate, discard, nothing more. Every item she touched had to go into one of those 3. No holding bins, no maybe piles, no boxes waiting for more thought. We tested it in her bedroom, and in just one afternoon over 60 items were decided. No spreadsheets, no labels. The only question was, do you use this or not? She said it was the first time in years she felt like she was choosing not just organizing. Decluttering isn't an archiving job. It's about keeping what truly matters today. Pointless Task 7. Feeling guilty about what you once bought. On Agnes's kitchen shelf sat a bread maker, still in its box. I asked, "When did you last use it?" She said. The first time was also the last. She bought it 4 years ago when she planned to start eating healthier. But then life got busy, she forgot, and eventually lost motivation. I said, so maybe we let it go. She lowered her head and whispered, "I feel stupid. I feel wasteful. I feel like I don't deserve to buy anything else." Her voice softened and the room fell completely quiet. I sat down next to her and said, "The bread maker isn't wrong. And neither are you. It's just that back then you had a hope. And now you've changed. We've all bought something for the image we had in our heads. Sometimes an item isn't meant to be used. It was there to hold our hope. When that hope changes, we no longer need the proof. I asked her if your daughter had bought something and never used it, would you be mad at her? She said no. I said, then please be as gentle with yourself as you are with your loved ones. We opened the box, cleaned the machine, and gave it to a newlywed couple. She said, I hope they bake more than I did. I said, what matters is that you forgave yourself. Decluttering isn't just about removing objects. It's about releasing the shame. Last week, Agnes asked me to walk with her through every room one more time, but this time not to declutter, just to look. The house was a little emptier, but it was brighter, more open and warmer. She no longer sat surrounded by half-sorted boxes. No longer pick up and put down the same old items. No longer waiting to feel ready, because she had already done it. And for the first time in years, she placed a small table by the window. On it sat a vase of flowers, a half-read book and a lamp with warm yellow light. I asked her, "How do you feel?" She said, "Light. Like I just put down an invisible bag I've been carrying for years." Those 7 pointless tasks she once thought they helped her declutter. But they were what kept everything stuck. When she stopped doing them, she didn't lose anything. She gained more. Space, time, emotion, and freedom. Not the freedom to buy more, but the freedom to start living again. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment so we know you're out there. Your support means the world. See you in the next video.